Welcome back to Radio Juxtapoz, the podcast where we deep dive into the world of contemporary art in all its forms. My name's Doug Gillen, and today you join me live in conversation from Hong Kong with the Irish artist ACHES. ACHES, as we'll be calling him today, has become a prominent figure in the world of contemporary muralism. Hailing from the streets of Dublin, where he still lives today, his work blends elements of graffiti, traditional portraiture, and graphic design. The use of chromatic aberration in his murals has become something of a signature aesthetic, his subjects caught in various moments of motion seemingly jumping from the surface they're painted on. In a craft that now takes him around the world, we talk the realities of the job, the pressures it comes with, and his love of the quiet life in Dublin. This episode was recorded in partnership with Hong Kong's #1 street art festival, HK Walls, who this year had invited both ACHES and I over to participate. As always, all the links to the project and the artist will be in the show notes of this episode. If you enjoy it, please let us know over in social media. Let's get into it right now with ACHES here on Radio Juxtapoz.
So I was painfully aware that after we agreed to do this, that like the day after in fact I think it was even on the same day that I'd hit you up and was like, bro, let's do a podcast. The Vantage Point one came out.
Yeah. I thought you saw it and was like, oh, we should do one too. That's just mad coincidence. It was that day.
Yeah, it was the same day, and I was like, shit. Usually, like, if we've had crossover before, and I was like, oh, it's cool. It's been like 6 months. It's been 2 years. This is in the space of like a month or something like that. So
it doesn't feel like it, because I did that back in like August or something, but they only just released it.
I listened to it this morning, so I'm going to try not cross too much ground, but I think the inevitable is going to happen. What am I calling you?
ACHES.
Of course.
Or ACHES. Or ACHES.
ACHES. I'm not going to lie. I know that was how they started theirs, but the Vantage Point one, but it has come up so many times. I was talking with a couple of people who remain nameless, and they're like,
where are they from, let me ask? Are they from English-speaking countries?
They're from, not English-speaking, but people that speak English pretty well.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give anyone that it's not their first language a pass.
Yeah. I was getting a lot of ACHES, and then it was, how do you say it? I was like, oh, fuck, I was like, I bet he's bored of that.
Yeah. My Spanish mates all call me ACHES, like, and they know it's ACHES, but I don't mind, because that's how their language works, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like my mates back in Dublin that don't paint at all, there was some journalist that wrote ACHES in a magazine one time, and that's all they call me now, ACHES.
What did they write about you?
Oh, I don't know, it was fucking ages ago.
Was it nice stuff, or was it?
Yeah, I'm sure, it's not bad to write about, like.
I don't know.
I'm only joking.
I don't know if it came from the kind of graffiti side, or
no, it was probably from a mural I did in Dublin like a couple of years ago, but it was like an Irish journalist. It was an Irish newspaper. Like.
What did they think of you in Dublin? Are you like I see, like,
I don't know.
We met a couple of times, and when I see you, I meet you in this bubble.
Yeah.
But in Ireland, like, are you like fucking? Is it like a mini Bono?
No, fuck that. That's the worst comparison.
Are you like a mini Bono over there?
No. But like, see, I spend most of my time in Dublin hanging around with friends that don't paint, or they're not even into art at all. Yeah. So I'm not in that sphere. So I don't know, I
definitely got that. Every time we've talked, there's these two sides of you, really. And it's actually quite similar to Bond, who I was interviewing the other day. Two guys at this festival, probably the biggest profiles, let's say, biggest followings on Instagram.
If that counts for it.
If we're going to boil it down to that, which means fuck all, you probably bought your followers anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're all bots now.
It's what a Russian...
The like to follow ratio is a telling sign.
A lot of Russian comments.
Yeah. They were cheap.
There's a real stark contrast between these, influencer level profiles on social media, but actually both of you being really quite incredibly grounded people.
For me, that's just, I think, part of the culture in Ireland. Like,
it kind of keeps you grounded.
Yeah, friends make sure to keep you grounded. Like, any sort of notions, and they'll tell you, like,
they tell you to fuck off to London.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, plenty of people have, but
what's Ireland like at the moment? What was it like as a place to grow up?
Just in general.
I'm here for the long haul. You're the first Irish guest I should probably point out, by the way, if you've made it this far, like, well done. Connor, no? I'm sure Oh, fuck.
Oh, there you go. Jesus.
I did interview Connor.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you made it this far, the subtitles aren't needed.
Yeah, well, hopefully not.
What was it like growing up there? Because I'm in it for the long haul with you. I'm gonna, we're Celtically connected.
Yeah.
So I want to go right back and then kind of compare it to what Ireland like in relation to wider things, but also just like as a, as an artist trying to make his way.
Yeah, so I was born in the early 90s, and growing up in Ireland, it was pretty good. Like, I had a really good childhood. By the time I became like an early teenager, my main focus was on sports, and that's all I put my head to. Like, with me and my friends, my friend group, we just play Gaelic sports, Gaelic football and hurling.
There's a pretty 50-50 split on your Instagram, actually,
there,
between on your stories. It's like, it's a genuine 50-50 split between Ga and your art.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, see, I had to stop playing hurling because I got too many injuries on my painting hand, so I had to make that decision. So I miss it a lot. I watch it a lot, and that's like, I'm thinking about actually going back playing now, but we'll see.
What kind of level were you playing at? Like fun, or were you?
It's all amateur. No matter how good you are, the top players in the country that play in front of a packed out stadium of 80,000 people are amateur. You don't
that's
get paid.
Ireland's way of saying you will stay fucking grounded.
Exactly, yeah. And like, I know some people that play at that top level, and they kind of are local celebrities, like, obviously, but it's just that they have full-time jobs as well. They just do this, like, and I wouldn't say they're spare time, they're extremely dedicated. Like, they're the same, like, they have the same amount of athleticism as a professional soccer player. Like, they're training hard, and they're athletes.
Which is your first love? Which is your bigger love?
My first.
Which is your first and which is your bigger?
But my bigger, obviously, I gave up the hurling for the art and not the other way around. So that's kind of telling,
Hurling's a side piece.
Yeah. But it's the fastest game on grass. It's an interesting sport. Yeah. Not a lot of people know about it. Obviously, it's.
Well, you must get that on your Instagram whenever, because you post so many clips of the sport, and being from Scotland, I'm relatively familiar with hurling, but
outside, and shinty,
outside of that, I don't think too many people understand what the game is. It's just like, you must get quite a lot of like, what the fuck is this, man? It's not hockey.
People are like, is that like lacrosse or field hockey? No. It's like 3,000 years old, over 3,000 years old. So a lot of those kind of sports that like predominantly use sticks originate from hurling or something, and shinty as well.
Yeah. Some variation. It's like it's like the Gaelic languages. There's sort of like a slight tweak, a slight variation.
Exactly.
All from the same thing.
But I think Ireland and Scotland used to play in like a mixed rules game every year, kind of like the Gaelic football and the Australian rules football. Ireland and Australia play every year.
I'd ask what happened, but I have a feeling I don't like the answer.
I don't know. It's probably like up until recently.
Okay.
Like,
yeah. The English didn't.
I think shinty has played a lot more on the ground.
Us from doing it.
No. Well, they tried for a long time, but yeah, I won't say anything about that.
Yeah. I was actually just hoping this would be an hour of just slagging off the English.
I better shut my mouth shut.
So what was it like as a? I think for me, Ireland always. It's got this deep connection with poetry, with the arts, and with that kind of that really romantic side of things. But actually, on the other side, growing up in Scotland, having seen how hostile that can be, that reception can be to when you're kind of not conforming, when you're not doing, for us it was football. It was like, who do you support, Rangers or Celtic?
Yeah, it's like that in Ireland. Well, up the north is like that. So who do you support? You're painting up there and you'll have kids coming up there. Who do you support? Don't watch soccer.
Where did your love of art come from? What was your kind of gateway drug?
My dad was like an amateur artist growing up. Well, actually, I don't think he painted maybe one piece in my lifetime, but before he had kids and settled down and stuff, he practiced art maybe in his, like, up until his mid-20s. And I have my ma has two paintings in her house that he painted when he was in his kind of mid-20s, and they're amazing.
What would it look like?
They are realistic paintings of Buddha statues. which I've no idea why because he never ever had any sort of like interest in Buddhism or anything, but they're really nice paintings though. Yeah. So I was always drawn and painting as a kid. You know, when you're a kid, your parents always say, "Oh, that's great, that's amazing," and wrap it in bubble wrap. And he would
no, I can't relate to that.
Yeah, right. Well, sorry. Yeah, that's I'm generalising there, but you know that seems. I'm sure you do it with your kid, or you will. You know. Yeah. So, but he always would look at something and say, "Oh, yeah, that's great, but this perspective is off. This is off." You know. So he critiqued the work unfairly, and that always stuck with me. So I'd say I'm my own worst critic now. Like everything I look at that I've painted, I just look at the issues, the problems with it, and how to get better.
Are you happy with the work that you do?
Very rarely. And if I am, it'd be for maybe a week or two, you know. But I think that's the way you should be, you know.
This is an Irish thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's an artist thing, just a self-louding artist, like, you know.
A real fucking artist.
No. But I think it's the only way you can improve, you know. Like, as soon as you start thinking your work is perfect, you're not going to get any better.
What was the attraction for graffiti then?
I was always, again, my dad had really nice handwriting and he could do calligraphy.
Is he still around?
No, he passed away 10 years ago, but he had really nice handwriting. And then when I got into secondary skills when you're about 12, 13, one of the guys in my class, his older brother was like a legendary graffiti writer called Zoya. So he used to bring in his sketchbooks, his black books, and I just got hooked then. And then I met this dude, Smek, and he doesn't write anymore, but he brought me out to paint my first piece. And then later I got introduced to my mate Zuaz, and I've been painting with him ever since. So just that was it. Like once I painted my first piece, I just got hooked.
What was it about it?
I don't know. It's just like an easy way to express yourself. As like a young male, it's kind of difficult to get. Like I said, I was drawing and painting every day, but I was the only one out with my friends. No one else was doing that. But then I met these lads that were all painting graffiti, and they weren't painting or drawing pictures or portraits or anything, but they were drawing in some capacity, but just happened to be letters. And I suppose that just kind of, I don't know, I just aligned myself with them.
How would you describe that scene then? Could you call it a scene? This is in Dublin, right?
Yeah, so the scene was...
Dublin turned 2000s?
So I started painting in 2007. Yeah, so the scene was pretty good. There was a lot of active writers like Grift and Fed and like ICN crew. They were smashing it a lot, but as I started to kind of paint, I'd say in the first year or two, they were kind of drifting off or like retiring, I suppose. There was a lot of like piecing, like a lot of people were doing pieces in legal spots or just like Hall of Fames or whatever. But now over the last couple of years, it's just grown a lot, and like the main scene would be bombing. Like there's a lot of active writers out there smashing the city.
Have you seen this correlation then between the explosion of housing prices and then the rise of graffiti again?
I don't know. Like,
or am I trying to deep it too much?
I think that you could, I don't know, like I know the people that are smashing it are probably in their mid-20s now, and they have been smashing it consistently for 7 or 8 years, so I don't think house prices were on their mind at all. So I don't know if there's any correlation there.
Yeah. Just, you know, sometimes you look at like when everything falls apart and people can't afford shit. Whenever you see those kind of situations of economic or social unrest, graffiti always seems to find a way. And I think Ireland's in that kind of weird place where it's like one of the most prosperous little islands or little states in the EU. Yeah. But actually, the reality is for people, it's actually one of the hardest times.
It's tough to get by. Yeah, it's a very expensive city. And it's only getting worse. Like the cost of living crisis obviously is like a worldwide issue, but there's like a massive homeless crisis at the minute with a lot of homeless families and children, and the government don't seem to care or want to do anything about it, and the rent is just extortionate, and they refuse to put any sort of rent freeze on or put in any sort of legislation to stop landlords from upping the price of rent.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem to be... I always thought that problem was just a London thing.
Yeah.
And then suddenly this little utopia, this little European utopia that seems to...
No, it's... Yeah, I think it's everywhere really, but, you know, the government that are in power, a lot of the TDs, our ministers, they're a lot of them are landlords, so of course they're not going to vote in any sort of legislation that would disrupt the profits they're making.
Yeah, nice. I'm glad we got a little dig in there.
Yeah.
That was important.
Yeah, well, I could go on, but
we might circle back and revisit this. You're sort of teenage guy coming in painting graph around Dublin. At what point does it ever occur to you that there was more than letter forms, or that there was potentially a career doing this?
A career never crossed my mind, really. Like, I was painting graffiti, and then I just started to paint more characters with my letterwork, and like those characters got bigger or went from cartoon characters to like trying to attempt photorealism, but no one will ever see them pictures. Then
they hadn't.
Yeah. I think I burnt them all, really. But then I went to college and studied graphic design. So that was the goal, was to be a graphic designer. Finished college, and I had the opportunity to work for a company painting murals, which is, you know, a bit of a... Yeah, no one really wants to do it, but
I wish you could see his face right now.
Yeah, but as a 20, I was...
It's a good job, man. Like, it's a trade.
I was 21, right, and up until this, I'd been a barman. When I left college at 22, I think it was, and I'd been a barman for 4 or 5 years, and I liked it. Like, I really enjoyed that work, but I saw this job for offer, like painting murals for money. I was like, oh, no way, that's sick. Started doing that. And obviously it was far more commercial than I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. So I did that for...
What kind of stuff were you painting?
Just small advertisements. Yeah, the stuff you don't like, you know?
Vocally.
Yeah. Which is fair, like, but in Dublin it was a much smaller scale than what's going on in other big cities, you know? It was kind of small shutters. A lot of like small businesses.
It's tricky because I've always been quite vocal at shouting out about that stuff, but only because of the scale and extent to what I've seen it like just hemorrhaging in London, particularly. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it in LA and I've seen it in New York as well. But you know, I lived in London and it was just experiencing it firsthand. The same areas that I was like, look, this was like really. It was like within 3 years, it was gone from flooded with really like top class, like world stage fucking murals to every single surface being used for advertising. Yeah, I was like, this is the problem.
Very high end brands as well, like
yeah, and of course the artists that are doing this, you know, it's like luxury brands, but every single artist, it makes no difference. They're getting 200
well, I'd hate to think that. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of that outside of Dublin, but Jesus, I'd like to think
it's nothing
the people in London that are painting those ads are very, very skilled. Yeah, like, you know what I mean?
But that's the thing about it, right? For me, is there is a legacy and a history of ghost signs and sign writing and hand painted adverts, and I can look at, you know, a ghost sign and understand the kind of the lineage and the history and what that has, but what you see at the moment is this bastardized version of this where it's so intensely.
Yeah. That's just the world we live in now.
Intensely visual.
Yeah, that's the same in every field. Like, everything's just turned up to the extreme.
And it might be me being, you know, kind of like old man shouting at cloud, and I do sometimes have to do that little check with myself and say, like, look, is this just the way that the world works? But it's like when you see how valuable that space is, that what was once a mural, other people have obviously seen the value in what that space, that real estate is, and have said, no. Fuck these ideas. Fuck these pretty pictures. This is premium real estate that should be, you know, if I wanted this in a JC Deco commercial space or Clear Channel commercial space, that would be, you know, $100,000 a week.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and the rest. Yeah.
So it's like they've seen the value of that, and it's like the only time I've ever shouted out about it is because you see really what we've lost or what we're losing if people don't push back against it, and if there's nobody pushing back against it.
Well, I think like there's definitely scope there for a movement to just say, right, look, 90% of it has to be art. You can do ads, but 90% has to be art, or whatever. Just come up with a percentage. But I was in Darwin painting, and there was quite a few murals. I didn't really expect it, and I didn't see any ads, like just in general, like no billboards or anything. And the locals were just saying, they're not allowed to put up billboards at all. Like,
well, most councils would have.
No, I could be wrong about the exact, but like I didn't notice any real advertisements there.
Yeah, I think most councils have in places that aren't extremely like profiting off it, they do see it, and they know fine well the difference of what that is. And they can say this is art and this is kind of like it's just advertising. And they know what that brings to a community, or what it takes away from a community, and that's the main thing.
But I'm just confused as to why a lot of them are murals and hand painted at that stage. They're so good.
Cheaper.
Do you think than printing something off?
It's just cheaper.
Really?
Yeah. That's
insane.
That's the thing. That's why those guys that are like, look, I'm getting $1,000 a week doing these every day, or whatever it is that they're getting. Yeah, they're getting nicely paid, but it's not nearly what they could be getting paid or what their value is worth. It completely devalues the whole profession.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Fuck. I thought they'd be getting paid more than they cost.
I might be wrong.
To printing.
No,
large poster, you know?
No, it's definitely cheaper, and there's regulations around it, so you can get away with doing it because it's technically you can have paint on a wall for, in London at least, it's for like 2 weeks. You can have an advert running there.
Similar in Dublin. Well,
until you have to file for some kind of
something like 27 days in Ireland, I think. Well, in Dublin anyway.
Yeah. So what's that scene like now then in Dublin? I know we will get onto your work in a second. I mean, fuck knows how much of this is going to stay in, but we're here, we're talking about it, so let's stick with it.
So what was the question?
What's Dublin like now? What's the art scene in Dublin like? Yeah, let's say what's the street art scene like in Dublin?
The street art scene is very good. I think like a lot of the artists in Ireland go under the radar because it's probably similar to Scotland. Like it's quite like the cityscape is quite small. There's no large buildings. There's one or two, and they're glass buildings, so there's no chance of any murals going on them. So growing up in Dublin, or like painting, it's very hard to get a large wall to paint. So you end up having a portfolio of small to medium kind of walls, which is extremely hard then to get larger walls abroad, because if you're going to a festival, they want to see that you can back up like your portfolio with large work, and you don't have any. So I think a lot of Irish artists don't get the opportunities to travel and paint larger walls at bigger festivals because of that. But there is plenty of really skilled muralists.
I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Yeah.
Anyone you want to shout out?
Yeah, Maisha, Dan Leo, Frizz, Holly Pereira, James Early. Like, there's loads. So I'm not going to keep listing because you'll end up forgetting. But there's
yeah, then it becomes about the ones that you didn't list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there is, like, there really is. The people that I listed are probably people that the listeners might be aware of anyway.
And is the sort of like that culture there quite strong? Exhibitions, openings. What's that?
No,
is there
not really?
Does it feed through into that next place?
No, the art scene in, like, if you're talking galleries, contemporary art scene isn't too strong. There's not many galleries. There was one good gallery, but that shut down last year. But yeah, there's a handful of galleries. So it wouldn't be like London where there's an opening every week. Like so yeah, again, that's tough to build like a.
Which is funny because there's so much money there, and there's money that they're wanting to offshore.
There's money tied up in big commercial entities. You know what I mean?
Tie up and come and buy a hyperinflated piece of art.
Yeah, exactly. But like, even just as I said, like the group of friends that I'd hang around with that aren't into art, like I don't think any of them own any art in their houses. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just a part of the culture that people aren't too interested in art. Maybe I'm just hanging around with the wrong people, but I know from going to shows they're not overly successful no matter how good the work is. Where I think, like, if you took those same artists and had an opening in London, they'd do pretty well.
Do you I'm just trying to think, do you show?
I've had, I think, two.
I know you do.
Three solo exhibitions since in the past 5 years. But I just don't have the patience really to sit down in the studio. My first show I had in Maisha's studio in Dublin, and that went well. Like, I was really happy with that. But then the two shows I had after that was I was contacted by the galleries to put together a body of work, and then I kind of just felt pressure to put together work. I was happy with the work I put together, but what I really want to do now is just have time in the studio to build a body of work without the idea of a show or a deadline in mind, and just experiment, and then when it's all done, then sort out having the show.
Yeah, that's a tricky way to do it. Sometimes that deadline helps put the pressure on so that you complete the job.
Yeah, and I would get the work done, but would I be happy with it? probably not, you know.
What do you tell people you do? Would you say you're a mural artist?
I just call myself an artist. You know, it just depends. Like I'd paint on any surface really, but just so happens the one that I'm doing most is on large walls.
You are listening to ACHES in Conversation. There's a fucking bird outside. You are listening to ACHES in Conversation with me, Doug Gillen, live at HK Walls 2024. This is Radio Juxtapoz.
What was that transition like then? You were working at this advertising. No, you were working at this. You were working at this mural company.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you know, you're obviously not now. So how easy was that to break away? Because like what you do, and I know for people that listen to the podcast, we've had plenty of mural artists. You know, people that have been like doing murals for a long time. We've had loads, but like, it's still a really rare job, and it's a really new job to be doing what you do. Like, it's not like this fucking, like, a given. It's a new industry.
Yeah, and especially in Ireland, like, the scene is quite small. So, although there is a lot of really talented artists, there's not many people doing it full time, travelling and painting murals. But the transition was handy enough. Like, you know, I was working there, and then I just started getting offers to travel and paint at festivals or do my own work. So I just ended up getting so busy with my own work that I couldn't.
It was a natural sort of like, hang on, shit, there's been a year and I've not been home. What is your travel calendar like? How many sort of big projects are you doing a year?
Last year I was away once or twice a month. So that it got very tiring actually. I took December and January off because I just couldn't. Like, I needed to just chill out, especially just like stuff in my own personal life. You can't get around to doing things that you need to do, whether that's housework or whatever, you know. Yeah. So
and maintaining relationships.
Yeah.
It's hard. I know we've all got Zoom and everything like that, but it's hard to maintain.
Yeah.
And relationships take maintenance. You know, they don't just.
Absolutely.
They're not just a given, right?
Yeah, and it's like I think about that a lot. Like, I'm blessed to be in a scenario where I get to travel around painting, but then I'm like, well, what if I don't want to do this? What else will I do? Yeah. You know what I mean?
I had a similar thing sort of post-COVID. I was like, yeah, it's all good and well doing the traveling stuff, but I got a kid now, and I'm like, I'm going to Hong Kong. That's really far. Can I just get some work down the road?
And like, you know, the walls get bigger, so the time away from home gets longer, you know. It's... On average now, it's between a week and 2 weeks.
And you're going like you're not on the sort of the EasyJet flights. You're going quite far places now.
But last year, I was in Australia twice, New Zealand, South Africa, America, and then a few places in Europe. Yeah,
that's going to be quite challenging.
Yeah, well, I mean, last year was like the first year where I really went hard on the traveling, so I was excited to do it. But I don't know if I could keep that up for a long like time consistently.
Yeah, how does it feel then looking back? In the moments, you're obviously, there's so much, like when you're traveling, there's a rush, right? There's the ups, the downs, the woof, where are we going? Who's this? New person.
Yeah, you meet a lot of people, yeah.
You meet a fucking
and I'm
lot of
like,
people.
I've got a brain like a goldfish, like it just straight away I forget names, you know, so it's tricky.
I've met Martha Cooper 8 times. every time
you're a very forgettable fella, to be fair, like, you know what I mean?
Hi, I'm Doug, nice to meet you.
Yeah, but could you imagine the amount of people that she has met?
Like, that's the thing, it's insane. Because you come to one festival, right, and you meet 30 people, whatever it is. Yeah. If you've been doing festival, and you're at that point in your career, like I totally get why she doesn't remember.
Yeah.
But it's just like that. I think I used her as the example of like that's where it goes, right? You get to that point where it's like, fuck, that's so much. You just switch off, right? Yeah.
And obviously, like, you're working as well, so you're focused on other things. You have priorities, and like you don't want to be rude, but like you can only remember so many people. Well, I can anyway. I know people that have great memories and can remember everyone and anyone that they've ever talked to, but that's not me.
I mean, I guess it's an obvious question, but what do you look for from the travel? Like, what is that experience? You don't seem like you're the kind of person that comes, stays in the hotel room, does emails, goes out, does the wall, goes back to the hotel, and then locks yourself up. You seem to be taking Hong Kong in.
Yeah, well, it depends. like if it's a city that I really wanted to go to and there's stuff to do, like Hong Kong, there's so much to do here. So I've been trying to like get the wall done, not as quickly as possible because you want to enjoy the process of painting the mural as well. But I was trying to get it done to allow myself a few extra days to just chill out and see the place. But like I would be the kind that's painting the mural and then just right after back to the hotel and doing work, but then trying to get it done and then spend an evening with the other artists or the hosts.
Because it is a job, right?
Yeah. But like, it's very easy to get like caught in that whole going painting and then going sessioning every night. And you have to remember now, I'm here to work. I'm not here to party. So, and like, I mean, it's not like another job. Like I have friends, I don't know, in all sorts of different fields that travel for work quite a lot, and they'd be in New York or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, what'd you get up to? And they're like, oh no, just went to meetings and had dinner in the evenings and that was it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's not really like a mural festival where everyone meets up and there's parties every night of the week.
You have to be quite, like, you have to exercise restraint.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's for me, obviously, being here on a festival with a kid for the first time, it's like a very different way of doing it. It's kept me in check.
It's probably good for you, yeah.
Kept me in check. Every other time I've been to Hong Kong, it's just been like, you'll be here for 10 days and it's like a blur.
Yeah, because it's a sick city now. Like.
It's a sick city. It's openly, it's easy to do. People are up for it. It feels,
feels good.
It's, the food is fucking amazing here. Have you tried anything? You tried anything local?
Loads of dim sum, like.
Do you got any of those fried intestines or tripe or anything like that?
No, I was waiting until I finished the wall first, just in case I had any issues,
Just standing up the lift, like.
Yeah.
I should ask you, I haven't contextualized this conversation in any way.
Good.
What are you're obviously here in Hong Kong. What have you painted and how did that come across? We should probably talk about that a little bit.
So I painted a lion dance costume with there's like usually two people in the lion dance costume, but you can't actually see them, So the main focal point is on the mask. It's a very decorative mask with a lot of details, so it was quite hard to capture that in the style that I paint, because you're painting the same image 3 times layered on top of each other, so there was a lot of like overlapping details.
I think most people that are listening to this will have some kind of sense of what what your visual identity is, and I say visual identity because it is. I think it's pretty. You got that pretty much locked, stock and barrel on that one. Like you're pretty close to claiming that one at the moment. I think if someone else is coming in and doing that, they're gonna have to really flex it.
Yeah, well.
How do you feel about that statement? Actually, before I go on,
I don't know. Like I started painting it just after coming out of college, because as I said, I studied graphic design, so I spent a lot of time on Photoshop and Illustrator and just doing design work, and I was trying to always merge the two and come up with a new style that I hadn't seen before. And obviously the chromatic aberration is featured in a lot of design work, but I'd never seen it painted on a wall, especially with spray paint like graffiti. So my kind of method was always paint a letter piece with a style that I was kind of messing around with. If I liked it, I'd transition that to portraiture.
So it started on letters first?
Yeah. First time I did a chromatic aberration piece was it was a CMYK piece on a bare, like it was an old water tower in Cork, and it was just bare concrete, and it took me ages. I was painting with my mate, I remember, and we'd been at a jam in Cork and we were leaving. I think it was the Sunday we were leaving, and we said we'd go out and do a quick piece first before we go, and he was driving. The two of us at the time, we were probably painting like pieces in an hour or whatever. And I remember he was just waiting on me for another 2 or 3 hours, like, will you ever hurry up, But it was the first time I was doing it, and it was tricky to paint.
Just for I'm going to call it due diligence, if I can. That's the third beer. I'm going to go... Let me try that again. I'm going to go with due diligence. Fuck, I'm going to get worse. I'm going to call it due diligence.
Yeah, you got it there.
How do you describe your style, and if you could like visually describe or verbally describe what it is, just in case there is someone that was listening that hasn't quite pieced it together from what you said about chromatic aberrations, and CKMY and everything like that. So what would you describe it as?
I usually describe it as subtractive and additive colour theory. So with subtractive colour theory, you have your primary colours, which are cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which is black.
Bro, I'm strapped in. This is a fucking TED talk coming here.
So, I mean, it's pretty basic.
This is good. And I feel like I've got my graphic design degree now.
So the subtractive color theory is when you use those colors, when they overlap, they get darker, right? And that's what's used in a printer. You use your cyan, magenta, and yellow inks and black, and that creates a full spectrum. So obviously you're printing out a photo of whatever, a landscape. You get a full spectrum of colours, but it only comes from those 4 cartridges. So that's the theory that I'm using in my work. Like, people think I'm using transparent paint to get it, but I'm not. I'm just using every colour that I possibly can to give the illusion of the CMYK effect. And then there's additive colour theory, which is the opposite. When the colours are overlapped, they get brighter. So if you look at my murals, you'll mainly notice I either use a white background or a black background. And the murals on the white background are the CMYK subtractive colour theory, and the murals on the black background are the additive colour theory. And the additive colour theory uses red, green and blue as the primary colours. And so when they overlap, they create cyan, magenta, yellow. And then when the cyan, magenta and yellow overlap, they create red, green and blue. So it's like the opposites.
Bro, I love that.
Yeah,
I genuinely do. I love that. I love how clearly, I mean, probably because you've been asked it 1,000 times in interviews, but you clearly have that on point.
But like, I think it's something that everyone is aware of. Everyone knows how a printer works, really. You know, everyone's...
We just don't think about it often.
Yeah, exactly. Or like your phone screen is just made up of red, green and blue lights that just shine at different percentages. So I was painting a few pieces like a couple of years ago using subpixels. So subpixel, you know, a pixel's just a square, but a subpixel is made up of a red, green and blue horizontal block that makes the square.
He's fucking flexing now.
Yeah, well, I've actually gone away from those murals. If I want to go back into it, I'll probably do more studio work like that. That's the same thing. Like, say, do you ever get a drop of water on your phone and it magnifies a pixel and you can just see red, green and blue? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what that is.
So how easy is it to take this theory, this idea, and then actually translate it into a mural?
Well, with the design background, it's quite easy. You know what I mean? It's all just done on Photoshop. So I tend to take my own photos, and when I'm taking them, I know what sort of lighting I want that will create the best contrast between the 3 separate images. Now, this mural I'm painting here, I'm just using the one image repeated, but over the last couple of years, I've kind of been using the same model but 3 separate images of them.
So when you say 3 separate images in 3 different colorways?
Yeah, so say if I'm painting a portrait, I'll have them looking in 3 different directions maybe. So one direction they're looking in is cyan, second one magenta, third one yellow.
I really like that you were able to just kind of succinctly break that down. Have you started to see other people? Because you're like we said at the start, you know, your social media profile's blown up. Instagram has worked in your favor on this. And have you started to see more people come out and do this?
Yeah, I think it's the same with everything. Like, you know what I mean? It is what it is. People getting inspired, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, as a style in general, I didn't come up with it. You know what I mean? It's chromatic aberrations being a design style.
Yeah.
For as long as possible. But I think the way I'm using it and the way I'm painting it is different than what people have done in the past.
Did you come up with this during your time at uni studying graphic design?
No, it was very shortly after, I think. But it was an accident. You know, I was just doing some typography design and split the layers by accident almost. And before I started doing the overlapping RGB and CMYK, I'd been doing hand style like pieces, just like a hand style, like calligraphy kind of chisel marker tag, like purest form of graffiti or whatever. And I was blowing them up big on walls, spray painting them, and I was using a tablet to design them. So I was just doing tag after tag after tag, and then I dropped the transparency of the pen and I did the tag, and every stroke you did that overlapped, it got darker. And I was like, oh, I don't think I've ever seen anyone paint something like that. And that was really where I got involved in that kind of particular style, where the colours were overlapping. But there was like plenty of people doing overlay work. Like Royds was been doing it for, I don't know, 15 years or something. You know.
Yeah. I think I'd like to get him on at some point.
Yeah,
I first met him here actually in Hong Kong.
Yeah, he's a big influence as well. Like, you know.
Who were some of your influences in graffiti?
The 2 main ones that stick out are probably Gary and Royds.
Clean.
Yeah, Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
clean.
So I was trying to paint wild style pieces for years, and I was always shit at it. So I just kind of wanted to break away from that. And I saw like Gary painting these super crispy, clean, like typographical pieces, and I was like, like you can do this and still be part of the scene or whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I started to simplify my work and try and make it a lot cleaner.
Would you call yourself a graffiti purist?
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't even call myself a graffiti writer anymore. I don't think I could justify that term.
Because it's a funny one, and funnily enough, I was having this very same conversation with Bond last night, who is one of those guys that's obviously got his toe and origins firmly rooted in graffiti, letter forms, illegal, and has just taken it into this completely other direction where it's something different.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not necessarily broken away from letter forms as much. I'm always interested in where that evolution of graffiti goes, like where that next stage is for people, and if that's something that you think about, care about.
I don't think there is a next stage of graffiti. I think like if you start painting different or evolve outside of graffiti, then you're not doing graffiti. Graffiti is painting your name illegally on surfaces. So if you what can you evolve past that? Like that,
make it fancier, make it something else. Yeah.
But people have always been making it fancy, like the way it looks fancier. But that's like subjective to whoever's looking at it.
The subject is still you.
Yeah.
You know, it's you and your name.
So like you could say I evolved in like by painting these large scale pieces of or portraits or whatever, but then that's not graffiti anymore. So at what point could it evolve but stay graffiti? I don't know.
Do any of those labels bother you?
No, I just paint what I want to paint and have fun with my friends. Like when I'm painting with my friends in Dublin, none of them, like the lads that I paint with, like graffiti, none of them are interested in painting murals really. Like, so when I'm back painting in Dublin, like I'm just painting letters with them.
Do you still bomb?
No. Well, after a few cans maybe, but like, I mean, just wake up in the morning and regret it.
Regret it, you do. What the fuck did I do?
Scribble like really bad scribbles.
I mean, there's a couple
and then they're the ones that last forever. They never get buffed.
There's a couple of loose cannons out here as well right now. There's a couple of guys that will happily go out bombing till 4 a.m. with you.
Yeah, so
here.
I need to distance myself from them people. No, like, I mean, I'm happy to, but it's definitely not a priority. I was never really like a hardcore bomber anyway, so I was always more interested in like trying to get the best looking piece.
What is it that drives you to do this then?
To paint murals. At the minute, it's really just like...
Other than just casually slipping in.
What really drives me is the want to paint larger pieces.
So you're a bigger is better guy?
Yeah, I think so. And that's probably down to having painted in Dublin for so long and only having access to like 2-story gables at the most. I don't know many other Irish artists who've painted at the scale that I'm painting at.
Connor!
Yeah. Connor, yeah. I said I don't know many. I didn't say I didn't know any. But and Macer as well. And like Dan Leo has painted a few big ones as well, and Frizz. But I think that's the driving force at the minute. And that's just like a competition with myself to see how big I can get it and still be able to do it.
Do you know what, man? That's an inner graph thing.
Probably, yeah.
That's a graph.
That's probably an ego thing.
That's
like,
a pure graph thing.
But it's just challenging yourself. I think that's... Everyone needs to challenge themselves in some way or another.
To the point where it breaks you.
Yeah. But like, I mean, also at the same time, it's easier to paint larger. Like the wall I painted today, or over here is...
Was this a big wall? Was this a basic medium wall?
Small enough. Like 5 by 5 meters, which is very small for the piece I painted because there was a lot of detail on it.
How do you do it?
Spray paint.
Yeah.
No,
but I mean, yeah, spray paint.
Well, yeah.
I know. Yeah, but do you grid? Do you project?
Oh, sorry, I use a doodle grid. Yeah, doodle grid.
It wasn't that dumb a question.
Well, I mean, I'm a very literal man. No, but it was, I used a doodle grid. And I mean, that's the best method around, I think. I've never used... I don't think I've ever used a square grid. I just don't have the patience to mark up a square grid like and measure it out, you know. But sometimes
I will... some projectors.
Use whatever makes it easier for you. If you're gonna like, I don't care what way people do it. The end product is the main thing.
Nice, I like that. That's a fucking grown-up answer.
Yeah, like I'll have people like saying shit to me about you. Like I'm canvas, I use Frisket a lot, or like, you know, stencil caps, and you'll have people being like, "Oh, that's cheating" and all that. I don't care.
Cheating? Who wrote the fucking rules?
You try and paint it and use all the stuff you can and see if you can do it. Like, you know what I mean? I just think that's a very close-minded like way of thinking.
Especially when it's your job, right? Imagine when you go to work and you've found an easier way to do your job, and someone comes along and tells you, no, that's cheating if you do it that way. It's no, I'm here for a job. I want to get the job done. Yeah. This is how I get the job done.
And that all comes down to being able to paint more for me. If I can make something easier, I can do it quicker. It allows me to paint more.
Is it just scale that's driving you now then? There must be more than that. Is it scale and lifestyle?
It's the main thing. Nah, look, the lifestyle, man. I'm happy to stay in Dublin and hang out with my girlfriend and my friends, my family, you know. That's I miss it every time I'm away. I can't wait to get back to Dublin. But
then when you're in Dublin, are you thinking, fuck, I can't wait to get away?
Last year, not so much, you know. I was kind of like, oh, fuck, I'm in Dublin for a week and then I have to go away again. And that was really my routine last year, was like in Dublin for about a week, and you miss out on loads of stuff like birthdays and parties and stuff. And I'm at that age now where all my friends are getting married, especially after COVID. Like a lot of weddings were put off, so I try not to miss anything like that too big or important.
I remember being here last time I was in Hong Kong. I had to fly home for my grand's funeral, and I was like, shit, this is far. Yeah, this is really far.
Well, it was a good excuse. Like it's good that you did that.
Yeah,
you know?
I was there for a day. Like just flew back there for a day and then back out. Went to Belgium. Yeah.
Wow.
It was just that point where you're like, whoa, I don't know about this. You know.
Well, your priorities were right, like to do it.
I turned up, you know, looking like a guy that's just flown in for 24 hours from Hong Kong, like wear jeans and a t-shirt to my grand's funeral, you know.
And then you flew out the next day.
I had to fly the next day.
Scottish funeral's not like an Irish funeral, no?
Was it Irish?
It goes on for more than one day anyway.
I think it possibly did, but I don't know. She was 96 or something like that. So I think anyone that was going to make noise at her funeral was long gone.
It's a celebration of life then, really, isn't it? Like 96 is a fine age.
So you're a good family man. You grew up. You got your brother here. You got kind of counter to the stereotype that most of the Irish seem to love, which is, you know, 24 brothers and sisters.
Nah, yeah, 2 brothers, but like my brother that's here lives in Australia, so it's a good opportunity for us just to see each other. Like, you know, he travelled over and he had a week off work, so it lined up perfectly.
What you like together?
I mean, like he's been living in Australia for 13 years. He moved there when I was 18, 19, and he's 6 years older than me. So like we have a good relationship, but we wouldn't be extremely close because we didn't hang around with each other when we were younger, because he was 6 years older than me, obviously. So, you know, it's nice to be able to do this kind of stuff and see each other in a place like Hong Kong.
Yeah, I mean, it must be kind of funny for him sort of seeing you out here doing like what might be kind of a weird job.
Yeah, but again, it's like we were just talking to him. It's just whatever.
So what's your plans for the rest of the year?
I have a few murals lined up, and as I said, I'm just going to be painting in the studio, hopefully, at any time I have. I don't have as much on this year as I did. Kind of
intentionally?
Yeah. But I mean, there's definitely some destinations that if I was asked to go, I would go.
Go on.
Just in case anyone's that's listening. That's desperate.
It does sound a little desperate, but here we are.
No, but like there is definitely places. But
where's on your list? Where would you love to paint?
My number one destination would probably be Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fuck,
But that's not even about painting. That's just I'd love to go there.
Yeah. Do you find there's a different response? I mean, your work is really design based.
Yeah.
I think in places like Asia, I think it will be well received. Does that make sense, or does that not?
Yeah, well, like I mean,
I know your work's well received wherever you go.
Stop with it. I mean, I don't know. Like, is it down to the culture here? Like, I think illustrative work would probably work best there, because there's illustrations everywhere. like everywhere I look, there's like illustrations. Like even just
illustration, but clean, right? Clean graphic illustration rather than painterly expression.
I'm talking about like figurative illustrations.
Yeah.
Like even just the park where beside here there's a swimming pool, and there's like tile mosaics all the way around, and the mosaics is illustrative work, like cartoon kind of.
But clean.
Yeah.
Clean graphic. Tight lines.
Yeah.
Rather than.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like,
I mean, look, I having spoken with enough mural artists, I know that when you're at a certain standard, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Your technique and your quality of work shines through whatever culture you're painting in. But I do know that there's certain aesthetics that blend well into different areas.
Probably, yeah, you'd be right. But when I'm traveling and painting, the style of what I'm painting doesn't cross my mind regarding the people that live there. It's more so the subject matter. So
yeah, do you think about that? Like, do you ever get nervous when you come to a place like Hong Kong where you're like, okay, cool, there's cultural insensitive cultural traits that are different to what I would paint at home or in the US or something like that? Like,
no, I wouldn't ever get nervous. Like, if you do your research, you'll be fine. But like, just in general, I've been trying to make my work a bit more meaningful, because you go and painting murals that people are going to have to look at every day. So you want to paint something that can engage the community. So a lot of the time now I'm painting local people, just that, not anyone that has any sort of celebrity status, just regular people from the area that everyone can kind of like look at and I suppose see themselves in. Just a regular person from the community that represents the community. Yeah. Because I'm painting portraits. Like, that's my favourite thing to paint, figurative work.
Yeah, apart from when we did ours.
Well, yeah, but that was a very specific community-driven project, and I actually really enjoyed it. I feel like
I should fucking mention that, Joe. I would have fucking talk about where we met.
I actually forgot you were involved in that project.
I fucking produced that motherfucker. we went out to fucking schools with traveller children and did workshops with them to try to come up with those ideas.
That was a nice project, man. And that was, coincidentally, I think that was probably the 5th horse I've painted. I've painted a lot of horses for some reason. No, I don't think anyone else has copped it, but for some reason I've just painted a lot of horses.
Do you remember when there was a turning point for you blowing up?
Not really. Like, I suppose if we go back to like Instagram followers again, there was like loads of graffiti Instagram pages that I think are probably the people who owned them probably sold them or something, because they don't really share any pictures anymore. But they used to always just share my graph pieces. So I'd say like a lot of my following are graph writers that had seen my graffiti. But now it's like, it's hard to tell really. Like, all the social media is just so hit and miss, so you don't know where your followers are coming from.
I bet you seem to be pretty good at it. You seem to have that on lock.
Well, I just post what I paint. I mean, that's it. There's no formula or anything.
I was going to say, you definitely don't strike me as a guy with a strategy.
No, absolutely.
Hang on, that didn't come out the way that I wanted it to.
Well, it's right.
No, I know it's right, but it sounded a little leggy. I meant it like, you're not like formulaic. You don't strike me as a guy that's formulaically going, this is gonna hit my engagement. This is gonna get the most amount of followers. That kind of thing. You seem like a guy that's doing what he loves from it.
And like on the counter, like I definitely am doing more video footage, just so the work is seen, because I mean, it's
where it's at, right?
Video. But again, it's easy for me to make a video. I'm just painting, and then my left hand I have my phone with the wide angle, just record a clip here and there, and then just whack it together on some photo or some video editing software. It doesn't take long.
Do you see yourself, we talked about this the other night, and I'm just going to pick it up because it is something I kind of still stand by. I mean, I was a few beers in then, but if I look at who the really successful people that have come from street art muralism, particularly muralism, you think about Okuda, Shepard Fairey, Felipe Pantone, like these guys that do really clean graphic, almost design-based work. And I feel like you fit in there perfectly. Like, you comfortably sit in that circle. You wouldn't feel like...
thank you. That's a very big compliment.
You wouldn't feel outside in that space, right? But you don't... Of course, you're still newer on this come up. The guys that I named particularly are really almost shrewd businessmen. But you don't strike me as a guy that's coming at this from that really business mentality. Do you see yourself trying to go down that path, or are you currently in the position where you're just happy doing what you do?
Yeah, no, I'm just happy to paint. Like, but it's probably like, you know.
Do you know what I'm saying with that though?
Yeah, but it's impacted me negatively. Like, I definitely miss out on opportunities because I'm not driven, like, when it comes to the business side of things. I just like want to paint, so I work on my own. I do everything myself. So people are always telling me, oh, you should hire someone and, you know, think about it more of a business.
Brand up.
Yeah, but
Do you want to brand up?
Not really. Like, I could see it happening eventually, but for now I'm just happy to paint and like release my prints every now and again and paint some murals. And you know, I have galleries onto me all the time about doing stuff like doing print releases or shows.
I bet you
and
do.
stuff,
I bet you do get a lot of attention from that stuff. You must get a lot of corporate attention as well.
Yeah, so like that's something that I battle with myself. Like, living in Dublin, it's quite tough, you know. It's an expensive city, and to live there and work there as an artist can be tough. So I think like the commercial work can be like a necessary evil sometimes. So if you're gonna do it, like, I always try and align with brands that I actually really do like and that I'm happy to work with.
So you did a lot of work for Guinness, right?
Yeah. And they looked after me really well, you know. They're actually like going through a phase now where they're really supporting the younger artists in the country and like nurturing like the visual arts and the music industry. So it's great to see like such a large entity do that.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't have to, you know.
I got absolutely no beef, and we, like, this almost circles back to what we were saying earlier about kind of brands coming into street art and muralism. And I sit somewhere like there's a constant battle in where I actually think, but we've done projects with Vans and Red Bull and things like that, and it's like, bro, the Vans projects that we've worked with have been the best projects that I've engaged with, because we've had a brand that's coming in and just going, hey, we actually really like the culture, let's support it, we've got some money, let's do this, you're all going to get paid, here's some creative freedom, and everyone's kind of winning from it. And it doesn't feel like it's being co-opted in the same way that other projects.
It's wild though. I think it's just when it comes to visual arts, people have an issue with it. They have no problem with musicians like partnering up with big brands. They cheer it on, like, you know. But I'll do something with a brand and you'll have some fella being like, oh, you sell out, and then you find out they work for Facebook or something. Like, what are you talking about? You're seeing an office all day work. Like, just because I've done one project with my art, like, it's wild. People have a backwards way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
As long as you're not selling out to big corporations that are taking advantage and not looking after the scene, and they're just trying to pony in on the scene, like.
And I think that's almost where the difference between having a hand-painted mural for a luxury brand comes, and having a brand come in and speak to you and say, hey, look, we're doing a thing and we want to engage with this. How can we help facilitate the culture? And
we want you to be the creative lead.
Perfect.
That's the main thing. Like,
I think about that a lot, and where trying to find that place where it feels disingenuous and coming from a real place, because the scene needs money. We need money, right? Like, we can't fucking do this without money. Exactly. Every single person deserves to be paid for their work. And you know
how it is, like, not many people are too keen on like commissioning murals for the amount of money that they deserve to be paid, like, or be paying. So yeah, the commercial side, I think, is necessary to me at the minute, and it just gives me freedom then to be able to travel and paint at the mural festivals and wherever, you know.
Which plans for the rest of Hong Kong?
I want to see the Big Buddha. I'm gonna probably go to Art Basel and Art Central.
The Big Buddha will be a bit of a moment.
Yeah, I think so. But why are you saying that? That was actually the number one thing I wanted to do when I came over.
Because you talked about your...
my dad's paintings. Yeah.
I'm not a fucking idiot.
You're linking it back. Yeah, that was very sweet, though.
I'm a sweet guy. I need all this.
But yeah, for some reason I get like, I want to paint big murals. I'm just attracted to this big art, you know. I like big sculptures, and again, we don't have that in Ireland. So
they love. I think I just read something that they've got. I think China. I'm going to have to fact check myself on this, but I think China has the largest sculpture in the world, and I think they're planning on building. And I think it's a Buddha, and they're planning on building a bigger version of it.
Oh yeah, sick. Keep going. Keep build bigger and bigger.
I love that.
Yeah. And what are those things? The giant robots that they have in Japan. What are they called? Did you see this one and it moves and all?
No.
Gundam. Is that the name of them?
Gundam.
It's like a genre of like art, kind of like Transformers or something.
Yeah,
But did you not see the big massive one they built in Japan? I'll show you after.
Yeah,
it's sick. I want to see that as well.
Thanks very much, man.
No problem.
For the record, I was referring to the Spring Temple Buddha statue in Lushan, China, standing at 128 meters. It's currently the world's second tallest statue. Thank you very much, Wikipedia. As you could probably tell, there was a lot of new bits of terminology and colour theory in there for a mere civilian like myself, but we like to make sure that this is a safe space for everyone to learn in on the podcast, myself included. I will say though, I do have a soft spot for a good, humble artist, and our man ACHES is definitely one of them. Thank you once again to the team at HK Walls for facilitating this conversation, and if you haven't already, check out the other episode from this series with Germany's Bond True Love. That's it from myself, Doug Gillen. We will be back with you really soon. Till that moment comes, take care of yourselves and each other.